when you're going through something, there's a part of you that always thinks that you're the first person in the world to ever go through it, and you feel like you should internalize it and not let anyone know that you're feeling that kind of way or you're dealing with that kind of thing, especially when it's something that makes you feel like you're being petty. So many men generally hate to feel like they are being petty, right? And anything that is not doesn't have to do with money or something life threatening or something they can solve with strength and brute strength and stuff like that, then they just think it's too little for them to avert their minds to. But also, if they're already feeling that way, they don't want to admit that they're feeling that way because it almost feels like they're admitting their weakness, right? Like, how weak am I that I'm feeling that way? Why do I say that? So today I was talking to someone, just an acquaintance. He was dealing with a lot of things. Say, oh, can I talk? Can you talk to me? And I said yes. And we sort of drilled down. Why are you feeling that way? What's really going on? I feel stuck, etc. And he says, but I'm angry. Deep inside, I'm angry. I said, why are you angry? He says he can't even tell me why he's angry because he feels petty about the reason why he's angry. I said, but why? What? I mean, anger is valid, right? Whatever you're angry about cannot invalidate your anger. If you're angry, right? It's an emotion. Then he says to me, I feel resentment towards my wife. I'm angry with her because some of the decisions I've made in my life, I did it because of her. Those are not the things I would have done on my own, right? We moved house because of her. We had kids because of her. I've literally left my own life, the things that I wanted for myself and the things where I thought I would be and what I would do. I wake up one day now, 20 years later, and this is not who I thought I was. This is not my dream for myself. And I've just realized that I've done everything for her. And so that every time she does something that seems ungrateful, if she complains about the smallest thing, instead of me to say, well, maybe I should do better, I feel deeply angry that she doesn't appreciate how much I have lost because I've been trying to keep her happy and give her the life that she has. And I said to him, but in all honesty, when you look at it, did she ask you to make these sacrifices? Or did you make them because you thought that was what was good for you guys? He said the latter. So I do these things not because she expressly said that it will make her happy, but I just thought, with the way her life was going, I dropped my own job at a point where I was going very well in my career. She got pregnant. We were going to have our first child. She didn't want to ease up with working, right? The child came and I slowed down on my job so that I could take care of the child. Did she ask you to do that? No, she didn't. But who would take care of the child? We didn't have support. We're in a different country. It was just the two of us, And now I'm looking back and I'm thinking, was she just being selfish? Why didn't she slow down? Why did she make me slow down? You keep saying make you, but did she ask you to? Have you even spoken to her about this? He's like, no, but now I just feel so deeply offended by everything she does. I can't even look her in the eyes. Every time she asks for something, the most mundane things, like she says, I'm going some to the shops and I say, what do you need? And I forget something. If she, as much as says, why would you forget this? Your mind is never there. He flips because it's like, my mind is never where. Do you know how much I've given? It always ties back to how much I have done for you. And I'm like, okay, you need to address this, first of all, with a therapist, because I'm not a therapist. But second of all, every time you've said something that you're angry with your wife about, the life you've given up for her, and I've asked you, did she ask you to give up that life? You've often said no. He's like, yes, but when we love people, we don't wait for them to say what is good for us, right? You're supposed to think for them. You're supposed to say, what's the best thing to do for us? Good. But when that best thing for us now leads to resentment, it's almost as if you forget that you were doing it apart for yourself. So the child didn't belong to her. The child belonged to both of you. And if you decided to lose your job and stay home for the child when she didn't ask you to, if she had the presence of mind to assert herself and say, look, I don't want to slow down. I actually want to work. Why didn't you say the same thing? You made the choice to say, this common denominator, this child that belongs to both of us, and she wants to keep working, I will step down. You could have insisted, I want to work as well. Why did you say that? Maybe the conversation would have been different. Maybe both of you could have gotten what you wanted. Maybe you could have come to a compromise and gotten a nanny for the child, worked harder, put money aside. You would have done something else. But when she said, look, I don't think you would mind if I'm honest with you, and I'm safe enough to say what I want, and I want to keep working, and you then immediately capitulated and said, okay, that's fine, I'll take care of the child and I'll stop working. There was no need for that conversation to go any further. She just thought that that's what you also wanted to do, and we found a solution and we moved on. 20 years later, you're resentful. He says, oh, not just that, the other time as well, she made us move house to move closer to a job she got because she kept complaining every time she got home that she couldn't drive all the way there. So I literally upped the whole family, moved the children from school. You know what I mean? Blah 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 blah. To move closer to her job. It feels like in this marriage, I always have to give up something for her happiness. Did she ask you to do that? And I hate to say that, like, you don't deserve You know how people always say that's the worst thing you can say to somebody who sacrificed for you is to say, I never asked you to. But on some level, before you make sacrifice for people, often ask yourself, have they actually asked me to? Ask yourself. I don't think it's fair for them to be the one to ask you that. You know what I mean? I'd be upset if the wife asked him that and say, well, I didn't ask you to do that. That's the ingratitude. But I can ask you that as the third person you're telling this story, and I'm saying, but he was like, yeah, that's even as he thinks about it, he's often thinking that he has no rights to be resentful towards someone that he loves. It doesn't diminish the fact that he loves her, but he's resentful. He doesn't regret the sacrifices he's made, but he's resentful. And I said, you need to talk to her and you need to talk to someone. You need someone who, a professional, both of you can trust. This is where therapists come in. You need to go to see someone. You can't hold this on for another 20 years. Something's going to give. If the fact that you're holding it on, you can't eat, you're moody, you're upset. You know what I mean? You're your head all the time. The littlest things, you're snapping at her. These are kind of things that lead to divorce. Little things like this, where two people just hold on to things and nobody ever has the courage to say, I love you enough and I'm safe enough to let you know that I'm upset with you. And even if I don't think it's your fault, right? I'm not asking you to defend yourself. I'm not asking for an apology. I just need to be able to say the things the missteps I think we took together that landed us here and makes me feel like you're ungrateful to me and you should worship the ground I stand on because of the sacrifice I made for you. I want to be able to say that to you and maybe get your sense as well and say, actually, I do appreciate what you've done for me. Actually, you know what I mean? It's not lost on me that you did all these things. I don't know why it's coming across like you did them for nothing. Like, what else do you want me to do to show you? I didn't think I had to worship you, but you know what I mean? If that want me to show you a little more that it meant something to me, then maybe you should tell me about it. He says, oh no, he said, oh no, I can't talk to a therapist about it because I don't want to look petty. Like he said, what kind of man am I to go to someone and say, I despise my wife or I'm resentful? I said, you will be very surprised how many couples actually are together and resent each other. At some point, they just stop caring. When they get too old and it's just about the companionship, the kids have left the house, they don't care anymore, right? So they don't have to, they can let the resentment show. You know what I mean? You've seen old elderly couples talk about each other like they hate each other. They know what I mean? They don't. But they've come past the stage of caring. They've come past the stage of, oh, I can't say that because I don't want to look like I'm hurting you. Well, I don't know. I know you did something in 1978. I'm going to talk about it. The time you left me with the children, I went for the one woman. I'll tell everybody the story and I'll say it like, ha ha ha, moving on. Like I'm not even upset about it anymore. You were a terrible person that I'm talking about it. But in these formative years where it's still like, oh, I don't want a divorce, I want you in my life, I can't balance between the love I have for you and the resentment. I said, look, it's important to talk about it. And you're very surprised how many people, he says, no, that, you can't think of anybody who's ever been resentful. I said, actually, you're wrong. I've had couples in my life, the same thing you're telling me today. I've heard it 10 years ago, I've heard it 20 years ago. I had friends who got married at 26, 27, right? And they're very young. You know what I mean? Everybody's still young, there's a bit more, when you're young, they're both very attractive. The level of mistrust is always quite high. But at a certain level, before the couples give up on each other, before the kids have come and I've seen everything they used to see, right? There's always a stage in their lives, right, where it's like a competition. I find it very weird, especially for younger couples. When they're being honest, they tell you how jealous they are of each other. I've heard people actually say, my wife got a new job. She was promoted in our office 2 times. She earns twice as much as I do. We started together. I used to earn more than her 10 years ago. And now she's like the breadwinner of the family. But I still feel, I don't want to call it resentment, but how is she doing better than me? How is this my life, right? It's almost like now you have something to compare it with. We come from the same house, we wake up at the same time, we sleep on the same bed. How is her life so much better than mine? And I know that in popular media and stuff, everyone thinks, oh, you're supposed to be happy for your spouse. A sign of love is that you should be happy for the other person when you're making. A sign of love is that you can't ever, ever be jealous or envious of the progress they make. You should always be the biggest cheerleader for your spouse. It's not always like that. And I think it's actually healthy that there's a bit of competition. It's okay. I'm just saying it's okay to talk about it. I'm not saying you should get extreme. You know what I mean? What are you competing for? Especially if you know you're both building the same dream, right? You've come together, you're tied at the hip forever. You're all doing it because you want the nest to be bigger for both of you, if that makes sense. If you see it that way. But it's also okay to once in a while say, you know what, I feel some kind of way. I don't know. I just don't know. Just say it. Just say it. I told him, I said, you know what you're gonna do for me? At the moments where you guys are having a good time, it's all fun and dandy, bring it up. See, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel if you love someone, you don't need an explanation. And that's what I found out of in my own life. I found out that people that I'm safest with, people I love the most, I'm safest with, and I don't need an explanation. I don't. They never ask me for one. If I say I feel some kind of way about something, an apology is not far. Um, an explanation is not far. I hear you. It's not. It's never far away. They are quick to say, "Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough." They're not trying to be like, "Oh, but why? I can't believe it." You know what? No, 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 no. Part of the safety is, all right. It's okay that you feel that way. I'm not going to be. We're not going into why you feel that way. It's just, what do you want me to do now? How can I make it easier for you? Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's just something out of my control, is it how I say it? Do I talk about it too much? The person who said, "Oh, my wife's better than me," and I feel a little jealous. I said, talk to her about it. Talk to her about it. And she said, but tell me the truth. What part of it? The other time you invited me to your office for some event you guys were having, I just couldn't get out of my mind. You and your boss were laughing, and I don't know. I just started thinking all sorts. Not that I think you're cheating, but I don't know. I can't explain. It's just everything. And then every time we're in the car, you're telling me about work. Oh, my boss said this, my boss said that. Now your boss is funnier than me. My boss is one making you laugh. Your boss, yeah, and you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know why I feel that kind of way. I feel that kind of way. And she never said, "Oh my God, you're so petty, you're so stupid. Why would you feel that? I can't believe you think that." No, 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 no. No. Emotional intelligence is, I understand. You feel that way? Okay, all right. So let me be clear. A, fact, I'm not sleeping with my boss. B, fact, I'm not cheating on you. C, fact, I really enjoy my work. D, fact, I'm grateful for sacrifices you make. And I make for you as well. D, fact, if you ever want me to slow down as well, let me know. Do you know what I mean? Don't ever feel like I'm asking you to do things that I wouldn't do for you either. If you need me to slow down, let me know. If I ask for something and you're like, no, I'm going to give it, but I'm resentful when I give it, tell me. I will give you, but I'm going to, but what about me? Learn to say, what about me? We are safe enough for you to say, but what about me? How come you're always traveling? I never get to travel. How come you're enjoying it? You know what I mean? You never look back. We were in this together before. You're not even concerned about, you just dump things on me and travel off for days. You never say, but do you want to travel? Do you want to go out with your friends? Do you want me to stay back today? You don't care. Talk about it. No, say it exactly as it is. If you really love someone, you owe them that. If they love you, they owe you security and safety to let you say what you need to say. But spousal resentment is more common than you think. Don't hold it in. You're not being petty. Talk to your spouse about it first. If you can't, please consider therapy, couples therapy. Just consider it. Honestly, it will save you a lot. Just don't hold it in. Don't hold it in. It will only eat you up. It will get worse. They'll keep doing the same thing that has been annoying you. And at some point, it's going to explode, bubble to the surface. And the consequences are a lot more dangerous. Let me know. Have you experienced it yourself? You know anyone experienced it? It'll be nice to share how you've handled it. Or if you disagree with me, also ready to hear you. All right, then. Thank you for listening.